right.
Six-pack Lapadat. Got Devin Williams, fresh off the USAPL Nats, and we were just talking before we came on. So this will be number one for your podcast. And I was just saying, well, that's going to change, huh? That's
Yeah, I
probably going to
sure hope
change.
so.
It's an indication you're doing something right. For everyone listening, Devin coming off of a win at the USAPL Raw Nats at the 125. And what did you weigh in again?
I was like 123, but I was like force feeding myself all week.
That's right. And totaled 950.5. And for reference, so you're a small 125. You don't cut, you
Mhm.
force feed to get as
Right.
much weight on there. And 950.5. And for reference for people listening, IPF Worlds, we all seen Tony Cliff with 952.5 win the world championships as a 120. So we're right there. You're a world class lifter, not just a nationally, ranked lifter, but you go to worlds, I mean, you're right up in the mix. And obviously, Tony Cliff is going to Sheffield,
Hmm.
and we all know about Sheffield. So this is probably some exciting times for you. You are like, holy shit, the possibilities that are on the table for you right now are nuts.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Hearing you say that I'm a world class lifter it's crazy. Like it doesn't feel real yet.
Really? Is
Yeah,
that
I feel
right?
like I mean I've been lifting for powerlifting specifically for 4 years,
Mm.
and so just 4 years ago in September I had my first meet, and I totaled like 720. I mean I didn't even break 1,600 pounds, and just 4 years later I just won my first national championship, and
Right.
I got some momentum going, but I got to keep it going. I got to get stronger. I feel like I'm just barely breaking through, and I got so much work to do. But I'm not going to stop. I mean, you can keep complimenting me. I like it.
So, like, it's funny because in 2019, when you first started,
Mhm.
Tony Cliff was the world champion.
Was he? I
Tony
didn't know
Cliff
that.
won that summer. And you started at the end of the summer, and Tony was like, it's crazy. Like you said, like the same guy is the world champion again.
Mhm.
And here you are, you're like right up there with him. Like you would have had no idea when you started powerlifting, and you're like, who's the world champion? They would have been like Tony Cliff from Great Britain. And you would have no idea, like, well, in a few years, you're going to be neck and neck with this guy. You might
Mhm.
be clashing with, we'll talk about the future. We're kind of getting into what you might be doing, but who
Right.
knows? It's, first off, how did you get into powerlifting? Because you were 20 years old, but you were weightlifting ahead of time, I'm assuming.
Oh yeah. So I've been playing football since I was I don't know, like six, I think maybe. And I
Oh, damn.
started lifting when I was like actually lifting when I was like 12. That's the transition from middle school to high school. So I would walk like an hour from my middle school, and I would go to my high school, which is like an hour away, and lift as a upcoming freshman. I was like the only person to do it just because I loved weightlifting. It was so much
Hmm.
fun, just strength training in general. And I did stuff like soccer and basketball. I did all the generic basic sports, but football was probably the most fun for me. And then on top of that, lifting. I always had a blast lifting. So I stuck with football and lifting all throughout my life. I did it through college. I played football in college, just a small D3 school. But my sophomore year, I actually tore both of my labrums in my shoulders. So I never got surgery, so they're probably still slightly damaged, but I have two posterior tears in my labrums. So playing football was actually super difficult, which really sucked. Like I was passionate about it, but what hurt me even more was not being able to lift. So I had a rough talk with my coaches, and I'm just like, hey, I love football, but if I'm not able to lift, I really don't want to do this anymore. So
Oh, shit. So
yeah.
you were like, you know what? You started falling in love with the training,
Mm.
the strength training in particular, more than the actual sport. Like watching football, you're probably still super duper into it, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm a huge NFL college football guy.
Where are
But
you from in the US?
so I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio. So I'm a Bengals
Okay.
fan by default. But now is a pretty good time to be a Bengals fan, so I'm not complaining.
Okay, fair. Fair, yeah. I mean, I know some places in the US, like in southern states, it is like if you do college ball, it's like a religion over there, my friend.
Hmm.
And I don't know what it is like where you're at. In US period, you love your football. But in certain places in the US, especially down in like Alabama,
Hmm.
and I'm not a football guy, I don't know, but I've been to Alabama and I've heard there are like families that if your son actually rooted for the wrong college team, it's like that's a problem. I mean, that is
Yep.
a fucking problem. You know, like your brother will pull you aside, man. What's going on with your son, man? Our
Yeah.
family doesn't move like that.
Yeah, it's not quite that serious. I'm from Ohio, which is it's a pretty good football state. But there's not too many like rivalries or stuff like that. Like you mentioned, Alabama's pretty crazy, but they've always been a power school for since I've been alive. So there wasn't any like backlash when I decided to switch from football to full time training. And I hadn't really even considered like powerlifting, just lifting in general. Like I would still be doing like power, like half Olympic lifting, half powerlifting. Form was
Hmm.
not great. Let's let's make that very apparent. I don't know what it is about football strength coaches, but it's like illegal for them to teach good form because
Yeah.
everyone
God
looking
bless.
back had horrendous form. So
Or like, it's a good base, but to your point, those fellas rarely hit depth, huh? In those
no, not
videos,
at
it is
all.
what it is. It is what it is.
Yeah, so I mean, built a great base just from not really ego lifting, but just hitting weights every day and trying to keep my weight up and stuff like that. And I mean, I feel like this is generic, but Russell Orhe, he's the guy who got me into this. I saw him and I'm like, this dude's massive, and come
Oh
now to
shit.
realize he wasn't quite as big as I thought he was, but I mean, he was throwing around, I'm sure 600 plus on squat, benching close to 400. I'm just like, I got to be 100 pounds heavier than this guy, and he is smoking me. So I followed his YouTube channel, followed a lot of his journey, and I was like, why don't I get into this? Like, I like strength training. So um, I tried figuring out who coaches Russell Orhe. Maybe maybe that's someone that I should go to. In my head, I'm like, man, maybe I should try to find a lower tier coach to start with and work my way up. But I was like, nah, let's go for it.
Too
So
big.
yeah, I mean that took me straight to Joey Flex, obviously. And at this point, I'm still in college, so I am a broke college student.
Mm.
So I reached out to Joey and I was like, hey man, like I want to get into this seriously, but I don't know if I have like the financials to commit to this. Um, and he pointed me to Michael Davis, who I had no idea who Mikey was before any of this started. And I'm like, dude, I don't really want Mikey Davis. I want Joey Flex. I don't know who this guy is. So I was pretty hesitant about that. And I was like, man, do I really just want to hop on some random coach and pay this money monthly to get this training? And I'm like, let me hold off for a little bit. And at the time, my girlfriend, who's my now wife, this is a cool story. I talked to her about it, and I was like, her name's Mackenzie. I was like, Ken's, I really want to do this, but like, do you think it's worth it? And I didn't have the money to pay just the first like initial 3 months or whatever it was. And she was
Mm.
like, I don't know why she did this, but she was like, I'll pay for it. And if you don't like it, then you can stop. And at the time, we're boyfriend girlfriend. We've been dating for a couple of years now, so it's relatively serious. But it's like I don't want to ask my girlfriend for this money. But she's like, no, I'll do it for you. You sound like you really want to do it. You sound passionate. So she gave me the money, and I was like, all right, Joey, let's do this. And he connected me with Mikey. And the past 4 years, I mean, it's history. We've done some crazy things looking back.
Okay, couple things. First off, God bless your girl for having you back like that. However, kind of she gets her man in the gym crazy amount of time, there's also benefits to that. Okay. That's like buying
That's
your
true.
girlfriend laundry or lingerie for her birthday. Whose president is that? You know what I'm saying? But anyways, tell her you want to be a professional hot dog eater and see if she's dropping the first 3 points. But anyways, but God bless, she had your back, and that's amazing. Also, dude, you and Mikey in 4 short years, look what you've done. Like, it's so funny how life works. And I get it. Like, you were totally in the right in terms of I don't know powerlifting. I don't know this individual. You wouldn't have known, like Mikey by that time. although young, had already gone to IPF Worlds.
Mhm.
He was already like experienced, but you wouldn't know. He wouldn't be. It's difficult. And 2019 was a little different too. We don't know what we all know now. Like I had a podcast then, but there were so fewer. Like the information wasn't as readily available, so you wouldn't know. So you'd be like, I don't know, like how good is this guy? I guess. And oh my freaking God, man. Look what you and Mikey have done in 4 years. Some people won't do what your progress, like you said, from 720 to 950.5. And again, for context, what won the world champ, like you're world class. Mikey took you from there to here that quickly. And there are people who will never do that in 10 years, my friend. It just won't happen. It's so crazy how life works, huh? How you're like, thank God. But
Yeah,
maybe even you and Joey wouldn't have had the chemistry that you and Michael have.
I actually
You
agree
know,
with that. Yeah, I mean, 500 pounds. I think it's like 502 pounds or something like that from my first meet till just nationals. That is
like
insane
adding
to think
another
about.
lift. It's like how many? Like you got
Yeah.
4 events in there or something.
Yeah, but like you said, like if I potentially got matched with Joey instead, we might have not even had the same progress. It's kind of crazy because I've had knee and adductor problems be kind of like my main injury, and that's the same thing with Mikey. He's had literally the same exact injuries. So every time I had a problem, like when I first hurt my adductor, I thought it was my hamstring because I didn't really know what an adductor was. So he's like, "Yeah, dude, it's probably not your hamstring; it's probably your adductor." And he had like just hurt his, so he had this protocol that he went through. So he just gave me the same thing, and like within like 4 weeks, I'm back in business. So it's been pretty cool what he's done for me and how much we've done together.
It's yeah, like again, you probably would make progress with different types of elite coaches. But I do think there's something you said for like you find the right one. And it could be just that little bit, even if it's 15 kilo difference, that's all the freaking difference. I don't gotta tell you, man. Look what just happened to USAPL Nats. And then the fact that he's gone through some of the same things you've gone through.
Mhm.
So when you're watching, are you watching IPF Worlds when he's competing like holy shit at the edge of your seat and he's like battling? It's got to be crazy when your coach is knee deep in it.
Oh, 100%. And he's always so competitive. Like this
Mm.
past year was this past year or the mixed grip Mikey when he came out and switched from hook to mix because he
Mixed
tore his
grip
hand?
Mikey. First off, I love that it's been coined the mythical monster of mixed grip Mikey. There's too many M's in there, but yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean
yeah.
he when he did that, I screamed so loud. My wife was downstairs and came up and thinking something was wrong, and I was like, "No, everything is great." Mikey just pulled in the first place, and
Yeah,
obviously it
yeah.
was an unfortunate outcome with Emil coming back. But I mean, it's like how could I ask for a better coach, man? Like he's done everything that I've asked. He's made insane progress with me, and he's competing at the highest level possible. It's
Mm.
insane.
And he's like a for real nice guy.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
he's so chill a dude, it's insane. When he's in a room, like is he the chillest guy? What's going on?
So I've
What?
actually only met him one time, and it was actually
Oh,
recently. So I went to San Antonio for work in August, so literally a month ago. And I hit up Mikey and I was like, "Hey, I actually just drove through San Antonio. I wasn't staying there, but I was like, hey, work's kind of flexible. Let me hang out in San Antonio for a day and let's get a training session in. And we can actually finally meet in person after 3+ years of training together." And Jesus was actually there with him. Jesus, Pablo, and Mikey all trained together. So I was like, all right, that's a pretty cool group to meet. I'll come hang
dude,
out.
that's literally the strongest man of all time.
It was crazy. Like I just met him like I was one of them. Like I was just a normal person joining their training crew. And I'm like, you guys are literally world champions. Like I don't even like I don't belong here. But no, they're all super cool. Mikey, they call him the professor, the prof for short.
Really?
He's just always dishing out knowledge, I guess. But yeah,
Is that right?
he's super chill. I mean, we met like we had been talking normal for the past 3 years. He made fun of my shoes. I was wearing my New Balances, but I mean, it was like just two buddies meeting after a year away from each other. It was cool.
Leading into this Raw Nats. Now, previously, if we're looking at the Open, the IPF, and we see what you previously did, and we'll talk about your training though. But previously, you had one competition over 900 kilos, and it was 902.5.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be kind of difficult to see you coming. But your training, if you look at your training numbers, I got these pulled up. I got my reference my notes here. You did 320 squat, 261 bench, which is freaking crazy. And it was the deadlift, though. The deadlift was always been previously the issue, but you hit a 370 in prep. Hitting it in prep, when you're home base and may or may not have already like maxed out on squat, maxed out on bench, whatever the heck is
Right.
different. I get it. But you then obviously, spoiler alert, look, we'll get into the day. But yeah, so maybe I won't go into the day yet. But tell me about this training. How did you jump up damn near 50 kilos? What was the tipping point here?
Yeah, so the cheat code is do poorly at your previous meet, and then your next meet will be good by comparison.
Right,
So
yeah.
yeah, so my knee has kind of been my kryptonite for the past like year or two of training. So at that Arnold, let's go before that Arnold because that's the 902 you're referencing. So I did a local meet in a different federation just for a cash prize. On my squat opener, they forgot to clip one of my sides. And when I walk out, I got a pretty hefty sway when I walk out. So all the weight shifted probably a good half foot, full foot. And I just had a really weird stance on my leg and I tweaked my knee on the very opener squat attempt. So that sucked, obviously. At that point, my
That is more than sucked. You are being very generous to be that nice. That is dangerous, man. For
yeah,
sure, you can
it
tweak
was
a knee.
definitely unfortunate. Spotters and loaders just made a mistake. Obviously, spotters and loaders are volunteering their time. So
Right, right.
mistakes happen.
Fair.
So tweaked my knee. It was like 630 pounds. Nothing insane, but obviously if that's misloaded, it's gonna
Tough to tweak a knee, that's for
yeah,
sure. But
gonna do some damage. I ended up getting through that meet relatively unscathed after that, but the knee was definitely beat up. So that was August of 2022, I believe. So fast forward about 6 months to that Arnold you just talked about. On my third attempt at that Arnold, I unfortunately failed on strength, which is all on me. But as the spotters and loaders helped me up, I wasn't quite ready to take my first step forward, but they were just trying to help me in. So they moved the bar before I was ready. So I'd take one weird like lunge step to try to get to the rack. Came up like 6 inches short. And of course, I was on the same knee that I just tweaked from
oh
the
my
meet prior.
god, man.
And I got to catch 700 pounds and I'm folded over and it
You
really hurt.
dog, you did a 700-pound lunge, which is
Yeah.
impressive. That's impressive. I'm gonna say that's a PR, right? But rig, dude, on the same leg.
Same
It's
leg,
just
man. It
you,
sucked.
this is the worst luck in the world, man.
Yeah. Like I've had knee problems and then those two events obviously are not helping. I think I probably pulled my hamstring a little bit on that as well. So that meet, my best total, 902, like you said, I went 5 for 8. I actually scratched my third deadlift because I just was in so much pain from my knee and hamstring. Um, so what were we even talking about? Why did I bring that up?
Well, so we were looking if we pull up your and that's right. You hit
Oh,
your
the
opening
training.
deadlift.
Yeah.
Yeah, you hit your opening deadlift. So indications like your training, you hit 370, and you
Mm-hmm.
needed your deadlift on the platform.
Right.
Um, and here's the thing: even though all these events happen to you, people then become skeptical, even though that has nothing to do. Like this is like legit. Everyone's like everyone makes excuses. There's like
Right.
memes out there. There's so many memes about powerlifters when
Yeah.
something goes wrong, but the stories you're saying are insane. That
Right.
legit one side of the squat rack, a bar wasn't clipped, and all the weight shifted, and it's 630. So you had to do like a dance jig on the platform and did a
Mm-hmm.
did a sidestep, and it's like holy shit. And then you did next meet, you did a 700-pound lunge. But when you try to tell people that and be like, no, I'm better than what my previous performances showed, people will be like, I got you. You look strong in the gym. I'm starting to see a pattern though.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, all right. And you can almost like let people off the hook. We're like, all right, you might not see this because it's starting to turn into some wild excuses, but I promise you. Did you think going into this, what were your expectations?
So the honest goal was podium, top three at USAPL Nationals. They get their pro card, and once you get your pro card, you're able to compete in the pro series and do a couple cooler meets here and there. So obviously, it's a cool opportunity. Let's shoot for top three. from qualifying totals, I was top three. So as long as I had a pretty decent day, that was kind of in the bag. But I had another competitor, a good friend, Brandon Dudley. He was the qualifying
Bam,
total
bam.
right up. Bam, bam. Yep. He was the qualifying total right above me. And we've had honestly a great prep, kind of giving each other banter back and forth. It's all love, but we both really want to beat each other. Like that was not fake. So the main goal was top three. The secondary goal was beat Brandon. If I could be second, he could be third. That's cool. And then obviously the overall goal was to win. But being realistic, Jared Martin was in first by a pretty hefty amount. So that really wasn't on my mind too much, more than just beating Brandon and getting my pro card.
Well, like to give people background on Jared Martin, who he's 33, but a 10-year veteran, legend in the game, legit. He's been to 10 national championships. In 2015, 4 years before you, I don't know what you're doing in 2015, but he was at the IPF World Championships. Like he's a grizzled veteran,
I didn't know
been
that.
all over the place. Yeah, dude, he's a legend in the game. And he has previously hit 963.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you previously hit 902.5. I had a 700-pound lunge, and I want to see Jared or Bam Bam do a 700-pound lunge
Yeah,
because I
me
think
too.
you right. But um, looking at it, what you were about to pull off is a crazy sports upset that just flips over the odds. Um, but I get what you're saying. We're going into this. You're like, I guess you didn't know Jared's. You knew he was good. You just didn't know his
Mm-hmm.
resume. Maybe it's better you didn't because the guy's freaking legendary, man.
Yeah, so it's funny you say Jared was at IPF Worlds in 2015 because I was in high school. I hadn't even graduated high school yet.
See, man, he's he was. Look at. I've been commentating every single world championship since 2016. He predates me, man.
That's
Like I was
crazy.
in powerlifting, but I wasn't commentating. And people, when they think of like I've been doing I haven't missed since.
Mm-hmm.
And dog, he predates me being around. He's from another generation. He's
Right.
legendary, man. It's probably
Yeah.
better you didn't know because it could get inside your head when you're like, oh, shit.
So I honestly did know about him. At the Arnold that I did, he also was, well, I did the amateur session, he did the pro session following. And I at that point I was like, I wasn't 125 for that Arnold, but I weighed in at like 255 or something like that. But I was like, for nationals, I'm gonna be a true 275. So that's gonna be my target, Jared Martin. So I watched him and he had a monster performance. He squatted like almost 900 pounds, and I'm like, shoo, I got my work cut out for me. But he totaled 968 there, but he took a big jump on his third deadlift, I believe, for a deadlift record. So I was like, man, he's good for like 970, 980. And that's going to be pretty tough for me to progress that fast.
Well, okay, this will help set us up for later. So according to uh open powerlifting, Arnold Pro Series earlier this year. Yeah, he hit a 365 deadlift, but he missed a 383.
Yeah, big jump.
Big jump. And God knows what if he and if that's within his wheelhouse, he doesn't post very often.
Right.
He never posts. Let's put it that way. So you will have no barometer of how his training's going, if he's hot, not whatever the heck's going on. And yeah, that might be to his benefit in terms of scouting on him. But
Mm-hmm.
if he thought 383 was in his wheelhouse, to your point, he's going to be a problem, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Coming into this. So when you came into this, at the very least for your own expectations of your own performance, and you're not sure where you think Jared's going to be a monster. He's a monster. Even if you knew he's a monster. You didn't know how many freaking national championships he's been to and all the rest of it,
Right.
but you knew he was strong. Anyways, what did you know you were going to hit the numbers you were going to hit? Like, what was your expectation like that?
Yeah, I mean, my range was 945 to about 955. And being realistic, I thought Jared would clear that pretty easily. I didn't think Brandon would be able to get there. So I felt good about that. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to spoil too much now, but I went in not expecting to win at all. And that's not like a jab at myself. I'm just being realistic.
Mm. Well, I mean, which probably makes as we'll get into that day, but probably made it like, holy smokes, man! Like this is this. Okay, here is why when people look at just nominations or top end strength, and sometimes they're like, if I was there, this would have happened.
Mm,
That's not always the case. I've said this before, this expression. I think I stole it from Eric Helms, but if you just go off nominations, if you just go off predictions, the Yankees win the World Series like every year.
right.
You know what I mean? Whoever's got the biggest salary cap wins it every year. That's not always how it works. Sports, you have to let it play out. And a lot of things can happen when things play out on the day. When you got there to the USAPL Nats in Memphis, how was the vibe? How was everything?
Honestly, not much different than like an Arnold. That was my probably highest level meet was the Arnold. It was cool. Memphis was not the coolest city. I
Oh,
don't know if you've
really?
heard stuff about Memphis,
No.
but
Tell me.
I I'm saying it now. If for some reason USAPL hosts something in Memphis again, I am not going. Memphis
Whoa,
is a sketchy city, man.
really? What do you like? Tell me about it. I
Oh
haven't.
yeah,
I
I
haven't.
got some stories for you.
Okay.
So I got an Airbnb for me and a couple of my friends who are all competing. I even did like a little Google Maps so I could look around the property and see if the neighborhood looked all right. It looked okay, but I knew Memphis was Memphis, so I was expecting it to be a little odd. The first morning, my wife is changing clothes and decides to crack the curtain for some light in the room. And lo and behold, right outside that window, under our bush on our property, is a homeless man sleeping. And he wakes up when she opens the blind. So obviously that was a bit awkward.
God damn, you're like, all right, well, that's how we're starting the day. All right.
Yeah.
All right, that's different.
Yeah. And then the actually the night, Sunday night after I competed, we all got back, had some pizza and beer, celebrated stuff like that. And we're in a two level house, and my buddy upstairs comes rushing downstairs and says, "Hey guys, I don't want to alarm you, but I just heard glass shatter." And we're all like, "Obviously, we would have heard that. You're tripping." But he opens the door, goes outside. The car right next to our house just got broken into.
Oh, yeah.
Glass shattered. It was crazy, and I'm like, "All right, this is enough for me."
This reminds me of on Street View for Google.
Mhm.
Google will have like Google Maps, they have that van that tours around different streets to gather street view for Google Maps. That's how good Google Maps is. It's beautiful. In Detroit, there's a street that if you zoom in, it's famous. You might already heard about it. If you zoom in for the street view of that particular house, there's a dude with like three of his boys on the freaking porch with a shotgun pointed at the Google van that passed
Oh
by
gosh.
because they were like, "Who the fuck is this guy?" Slowing down, taking pictures. Who the fuck is this guy? And they were waiting for his ass. And that Google dude was probably like, all right, fuck it. I'm out of here. I'm no more street view for the rest of this block. But yeah, man, you see that. You're not getting that's probably like an Airbnb type of neighborhood that
Right.
you were in.
Yeah, it's funny you bring up Detroit because I Googled it. Most dangerous cities in the US. Detroit's number two. And I'm sure you can guess who beats it. Memphis, Tennessee.
Are you for real?
You could Google it right now. I'm sure it hasn't changed. I don't know what the statistics are to make it dangerous, but I did not enjoy the city.
I mean, Jesus, man. This is probably like USAPL's like, Jesus, we got an amazing deal at this venue.
I'm sure they did. Yeah.
I guarantee you did, sir. It's like, holy smokes. I just recently moved to Windsor. I used to be
Mhm.
closer to Toronto, and I just moved to Windsor. So I'm like right side by side with Detroit. Like I could literally from my block see Detroit. Like Windsor and Detroit are like separated by the river. So I mean, I have not. I'm talking like a 15-minute drive. I have not gone over to Detroit much. I'm told there's nice parts of Detroit, but my man, I'm minding my P's and Q's. You know,
Yeah,
I'm not getting
absolutely.
adventurous.
Yeah, I mean
But
the only saving grace in Memphis was that the Bass Pro Shop Pyramid. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I don't think so. What
I
is
didn't
that?
go. I actually didn't go to it, but there's a giant pyramid in Memphis, and I don't know what it was. I think it was in a sports arena originally, and then it got changed into a Bass Pro Shop, which I've never been to the Bass Pro Shop either. But I think it's some sort of like fishing store.
I'm gonna say like, what does that got to do with a pyramid?
No idea,
Such a
but it's like
bizarre.
like every friend that I had that went to Memphis had some story about the Bass Pro Shop pyramid. So
You
that's
know,
the one saving grace.
It's like it's weird. You hear these stories about Memphis, you almost want to go there for the stories now.
Go there for
But
a
but
day.
go there for a day, not for a night.
Right.
Get out of there when night falls, man. It's like vampires are out there. What was it like being there in terms of like all the other USAPL people? Was it like, or did you already experience that kind of high at Arnold and is more the same?
So I had met like obviously you like follow everyone on Instagram, follow these big accounts. They're titans, they're doing their thing. I had met like 10% of those guys. And then
Mhm.
at Memphis, I think I finally met like every single person that I followed that I've like looked up to. And I mean everyone's just a regular person at the end of the day. No one's got paparazzi following them. So it was cool
Except
to
for
meet people
Russ.
like that. Yeah, except Russ, but Russ wasn't there.
I know how upset how he got you into powerlifting. How are you like, God damn it? The nationals I go to, he doesn't. He's the guy who got me into powerlifting, got me on Flex Squad.
Yeah, it would been cool to see him for sure. I'm sure he would have been swamped. I feel like he's one of like actual like paparazzi powerlifters. He's got so many followers and fans. But I mean, I'm sure he's gotten a good chunk of the USAPL fan base into powerlifting because of him. So hats
Oh.
off to him. But
So,
I
so
had a
we
couple people come up to me actually and they're like, "Hey, are you Big Dev?" And I'm like, "There's no way this is happening. I am not. I have like 1,000 followers." But I mean, it's super cool.
dude.
They're just like, "Man, I've been following you. Like, you're super strong. You inspire me." And I'm just like, "Dude, I'm so happy I could inspire you, but like, I'm just a regular dude trying to get stronger."
You're not though. Well, here's the thing. I think you're because this happened so quickly to you, and you went from like you, you had all this potential this entire time. Just a extremely weird series of events that we talked about has stopped you and prohibited you. But now that you put it forth, dude, this is going to happen more and more often. I mean, this is people are going to be like, "Oh my god!" But anyways, not to get too ahead, we'll talk about that and including the future. But so you were there, you're taking it in, and it is raw nats, and you're seeing all these people you normally see on Instagram. Um, are you sleeping? Are you the type of guy like I can't? I haven't powerlifted since 2019. Actually, it's like we pass a baton, my friend. But I did for like 12 years. I cannot sleep before a competition. I am an excitable guy. You could tell by the way I talk, whatever. But when it comes to like excitement, it flows through me, and I feel the energy. When I'm in a hotel room and it's like I'm commentating the world championships, and I walk through the lobby like you're talking about, I see people from all over the world that I know about. And I go back to my hotel room, lay down, and I'm like, this is gonna happen, huh? But who am I kidding? There's gonna be somebody up. I remember Chance Mitchell, the year he won, that night is like 4 o'clock in the morning. He messaged me something thinking I would get to that message in the morning. I commentate every single day, so I got to be up in like 2 hours to commentate. And he's like, "Hey, when you get a second, can you send me this clip? The IPF, I think, has it." And I hit him back immediately. And he's like, "What the fuck? It's 4 in the morning, man. I had so much caffeine. What are you doing up?" I'm like, "Dog, I don't sleep when it comes to these things." How were you when it comes to all that?
So sleep was not too bad actually. Uh, prime. So I had a buddy in prime time Saturday night. Shout out to Ben Poor. He was competing. It's I think 8 p.m. Central where we were, and then 9 p.m. Eastern, which is kind of where my body clock was, which isn't far off, obviously. But I think he competed until about 1 a.m. and I watched the whole thing, and it was awesome. Um, and I was actually pretty tired. If I felt like after that. So I got home probably about 1:30, got to bed at about 2, probably didn't fall asleep
Mm.
till about 3. So I was up pretty late that night. I woke up at 7 a.m. the Sunday before I competed like a spring chicken, like no problems at all. I don't know
Really?
why. I'm actually usually like a 9 to 10 hour sleeper. So I usually get my sleep in, but I don't know if it's the excitement or what, but I could not sleep and I didn't need it. I just woke up feeling good.
And that's exactly what I found out. And I would read literature on it. And I remember GSP, George St. Pierre, the UFC legend, was he would not sleep for like 2 days, like straight no sleep, leading into a massive title fight. And he had talked to a couple like veterans who've been around the game forever. And he's like, "Dude, I have so much performance anxiety. What do I do?" And the veteran's like, "I'm going to be honest with you. It never goes away. You just learn how to deal with it. And what helps you deal with it is the more it happens and the more you still have a good day in spite of, when you're laying in bed, you can just remind yourself, this happened last time. I got no sleep and I still performed anyways. It's okay. Once you know that, it's all good. You don't get in your own head about it. You can't force yourself to sleep though. That's why it kills me when people are like, you don't sleep enough. How many of you people aren't sleeping as much as you should? It's like,
Mhm.
I'm that guy. Like, man, I have a hard time sleeping like in my day to day period. It's like, trust me, man, I would love to sleep if I could, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I'd
But
say one of the bigger things than sleep is eating. It's like I don't get nervous, but it's like I'm excited, I'm anxious, I'm ready to go. I don't know if my stomach shrinks or what, but I cannot eat like the 2 or 3 days before a meet. Like the
same.
morning of my meet, I didn't have breakfast. I only had lunch. I had like a Gatorade before weigh-ins because I was already way underweight. But I don't think I had any solid food that day. I just cannot eat. It's nerves. I don't
Whoa.
know what's going on, but it's good to know that I can still perform without having calories the day of. So that's a nice thing to know about.
That I'm the same way, by the way. And when people talk about like when I get stressed and anxious, I can't eat either. Like
Mhm.
you like period in life, right? But performance wise, for sure, it's going to hit me like that. That's why, like, I don't get when people like when I get stressed, I have comfort food and they like gain weight. I'm like, dog, when I get stressed, I lose weight. Like, if this is going on for a long period of time, like, I can't force myself to eat either. Some tricks are like, if you could drink or like take shots of something like honey, any kind of
Mhm.
squirt it in your mouth, whatever, you'll figure it out. There are people Kedrick, who I've had on the podcast, and Lane Norton, I've had on the podcast. Like these people, there are people out there that can work with you with nutrition, or even if you don't want to, even if you just like get some videos and see, because the same thing has happened to you has happened to other people.
Mhm.
And it becomes one of these a common thing. It's more common than you think. And it's like, how do I get calories in? Because this will impact your performance eventually, right?
Right, right.
And like calories in literally is the gas in the tank. You literally convert calories to energy. Calories is actually a unit of energy. You're going to need your calories, right? So eventually you're going to want to figure it out. And there's tricks. There's tricks in
Yeah.
getting it in there.
I think
But
liquid diet
yeah,
is going to be the trick. 'Cause I cannot get solid food down, but like my coach talked about putting like olive oil in my protein shakes, try to get that in. I didn't try that actually because it sounds disgusting, but
it sounds disgusting.
something along those lines I think is what I'm gonna need because I could not bite into food. It just made me nauseous.
Like I remember people who just do it. And I was chewing that freaking whatever the hell it was for like ever. And my mouth was dry as hell. I'm like, I can't even swallow this, man. Like people don't understand. It's like telling someone just go to sleep. I can't sleep. Just eat. It's like, man, it's not as easy as you think, man.
Right.
But yeah, such is the struggle. So when you get there and it's the day to perform, you're in the warm-up room, Jared's there, Bam Bam's there. How are you feeling?
Honestly, really good. The warm up room was sick, especially during prime time because I think there was like maybe 20, no, not 20, maybe like 10 combo racks. And there's not that many lifters. So it was like 2 to 3 people per combo rack, which was super sick. And then obviously I had my handler, Big Body there. Isaac Whistler was there helping me out. Haley Hunter. I had a whole crew behind me, which was awesome. But seeing like the other competitors there, obviously Jared, I paid attention to him. Me and Brandon, I mean, literally up till like we actually started squatting, we're still screwing with each other. Like I'm sending him messages. I think we were squatting. I was like, dude, this bar is feeling light. You're in trouble. just trying to screw with him
Or
and get in his head.
or like he warms up, you're like, I'm sorry, was that your top warm up? Because that's a little slow. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I just wanted to. Are you in? Did you sleep well last night? Because you're moving a little weird. You're like, I'm asking as a friend. I'm concerned.
Yeah, so we were going back and forth literally up until the moment we started lifting. And even then, like I would usually follow him or I'd be right behind him when he's going out for his lift. And I'd shout at him, say, let's go, let's do this. And then as we finished squat and finished bench and we got our little 10-minute break, I'm just like, dude, like we're in this. Let's keep it going. And I mean, it was sick.
Looking at okay, so in terms of the squats, we'll walk through it. Bam Bam hits 355. You hit 325. He's got
Mhm.
a bit of a spread on you. You got a monster deadlift. You haven't revealed yet on the platform. almost like a secret weapon. You hit 370 and prep for this, but anyone who might be a little like, well, I don't know, it didn't happen from
Yeah.
before. They don't understand all the other series of events. So whatever. And then Jared Martin, 393, which is an absolutely ridiculous
That's
squat on
insane,
that guy.
dude.
Yeah, God bless. Jared Martin is a freak. But yeah, so after the squats, all three you gentlemen go 3 for 3. How are you feeling? Is it going as you thought it would? Are you still at this point thinking, okay, Jared is 100% on? And are you thinking it's me and Bam Bam fighting for second, or how are
Mhm.
you feeling?
Yeah, so I thought for sure Jared would have to miss a squat for me to even have a chance. And then I saw him squat 393 and I was like, holy shit. Like, I don't think that was 150 pounds more than I squatted. I was like, I
That's
don't know if I
fair.
can make up 150 pounds over these next two
Yeah.
lifts. I was like, hats off to Jared. He's probably got this. But seeing Brandon move 355, that actually moved really well too. And I was like, he probably could have gone 5 kilograms higher, but like, thank God he didn't. Because he kept me. I mean, I had everything planned out. I knew what I wanted to squat, I knew what I wanted to bench, and I knew what my subtotal had to be for me to be comfortably ahead of Brandon. So after squats going three, I mean, 3 for 3 is obviously like that's ideal. I want to beat Brandon, I want to beat Jared, but I want them to have a good day. So everyone going 3 for 3. I felt like I left 2.5 to 5 kilograms on the platform, which is what I wanted actually. I didn't want to max out because I knew that was going to tear my knee up. So I saved kilograms there. Knee felt pretty good. Everyone else is doing pretty good. Jared probably did a little more good than I would have liked, but I mean that's how I wanted to go.
So are you thinking at this point, are you adjusting like, all right, well, Jared first? Are you thinking like, oh my God, maybe I'm gonna come in third, or are you thinking, hey, no 700-pound lunge today, so maybe I don't know, maybe we're doing just squats and we're okay.
Yeah, honestly, the absolute top goal for squats was just to get out of squats healthy. I haven't done that in the past two meets, and it's made my meet prep after the meet horrendous just because I got to spend the first 6 weeks rehabbing. So I got through healthy, and I was like, regardless of what they did, mission accomplished. We're good. Let's go bench. That's my thing.
Okay, so let's talk about the bench, and that was a PR squat for you.
Yes.
Jared smashing records, everybody's on point. So let's talk about the bench. You hit a 261 in the gym. What were the, and you ended up getting a 255.5. And I believe, was that Dennis Cornelius's record that you took?
Yes.
Who is a legend in the game, obviously.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So is this the expectation you wanted? Take Dennis's record with the third and go for 3 for 3?
So the goal was to grab that chip because we were expecting Jared to grab one on squats, which he did. And we knew Brandon was going to pull something crazy for the win. So we knew a chip was needed to help us out there. The goal was probably like 260, honestly. I thought 260 was there. But with how good Jared did on squat, I was like, I don't want to risk it and lose these 5 kilograms. I think it's me versus Brandon for second now. So let me stop chasing Jared and just reel it back, hit a smooth 255 and a half. And just be happy with that. Because I don't think I'm catching Jared. Obviously, that was not correct, but that mindset was good. I feel like the last couple of meets I've done, it's always been a reach on my third attempt. And I don't think reaching's bad, but obviously the more you reach, the more you're gonna miss.
Mm.
So going 3 for 3, going 6 for 6 into deadlifts, it's hard to complain about that.
Well, I mean, Matt Gary, who was like the game day goat, literally wrote the book on game day handling. He said like titles are won going 9 for 9, maybe 8 for 9, sometimes 7 for 9. But when you go 9 for 9, you're tough to beat. And if even if you're an underdog, you go 9 for 9, and if the favorite coming in starts missing, the door opens up when you do that. And it's probably wasn't a bad thing that you stayed in the pocket. Maybe
Mhm.
260.5 was there. Maybe it was because I seen you hit 261 and look good in the gym, if I'm honest. So maybe it was there. And maybe if pressed, but I don't know. You can't, I mean, obviously we know how it ended up, but and I'll also say, I've seen Isaac at the IPF World Championships handling. he's handled that IPF Worlds against like the national team coaches, and it is extremely competitive handling at that level. And Isaac held his own. So I know you said Isaac was back there. I don't know to what extent Big Body was there too, but I have seen that young man at the IPF World level hold his own, and he could do his damn thing. So you were in good hands,
Yeah.
so which is good too.
Yeah, when deadlift started, him and Chris were, it was like Oppenheimer. Their brains were going, trying to figure out what to put in for their third attempts and how to make Jared do this and that. And I was like, obviously, I feel like I'm pretty good with numbers. I'm an engineer. So I was like, you know what, you guys do it. I'll stay out of it. But then I was like, wait a second, let me let me not be in the dark here. Let me know with you. And we went through like 10 scenarios in like a minute. Obviously, we'll get to that as we talk about deadlifts. But yeah, Isaac and Chris did their thing, and I mean, I think we did exactly what we needed to do to be
It's funny when we
successful.
said it's like Oppenheimer. You know what? You've seen Oppenheimer, I assume, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It first off, not to get derailed here, it's an amazing movie.
Hmm.
But you know when Einstein talks to Oppenheimer by that pond,
Yeah.
that's where I picture Isaac and Big Body having that conversation. And one of them's you look over and they're disgusting like that. But no, it really is. It comes down to a game of inches, and you need to be paying attention to what the competition's doing, especially during the deadlifts. You no longer, to an extent, for the first 6 attempts, you want to get the most out of your lifter. Sometimes some gamesmanship can be played depending on lot numbers, depending if there's chips involved. You have to pay attention. You have to be aware. But when deadlifts come, mistakes cannot be made. That's when champions get made. And everything from dropping opener, raising opener to getting behind somebody by the second so that you're in a good position or forcing their hand on their third. Everything rolls out like that. And
Hmm.
yeah, we had talked already, and you were saying like you're an engineer and you're a numbers guy. Some people walk into these competitions and they're like, it's better to just let me be the athlete. I don't want to know. I don't even know. I've talked to people who didn't even know they won until afterwards, and they're like, you won. And I think it was even Penna maybe. Anyways, and because he's like, oh, I missed my third. Ah, shit, this guy's going up. They're like, no, no, no. You won on your second. Like we didn't let you know. Like whatever, go out. We got another lift. Like this is over.
Hmm.
This is already done. Some people have no idea. But you being an engineer and you work with numbers. Sometimes also the anxiety. Like the anxiety forces you to not want to know what's going on. Other people, the anxiety is like I actually feel less anxious if I have a bit of a control on it.
Hmm.
So, anyways, in the deadlifts, is that where you became all right, fellas? I want to join this conversation.
Yeah. So actually, between bench and deadlift is when I first realized that Jared missed his third bench. We that totally slipped under our radar because we just expected him to go 3 for 3. Um, so I look at Big Body. I was like, is that Jared's third bench he missed? He was like, oh yeah, good catch. And then I'm like, all right, well that helps out a little bit. So at this point, I'm still like, I mean, that helps out, but he hits a second attempt deadlift. It's probably it for me. So I'm like, oh, let me worry about hitting my opener in my second, and then we'll see what's on the table. And then I'm like, let me look back real quick, and I see that I weighed in less than him. So I'm like, okay, well, that's 7.5 keys he just missed. I got body weight advantage. I'm 17.5 kilos back. So I text Mikey and I was like, hey, let's keep an eye out for first. It's optimistic, but let's keep an eye out.
So yeah, okay.
So so we just like, and I'm a very calm lifter. I've tried to blast music in my ears. I've tried to shout. I've tried to be emotional. It really doesn't work for me. So now that I've just understood that, it's better for me. I was actually like just chatting with Isaac between every attempt, just like, hey, you want to come lift this for me? I don't feel like doing it. Just like joking stuff like that. And that's how I was through opener. I hit 750 on my opener, which is like 5 kilos off my all-time deadlift best in competition because I just had bad history. Second attempt was 360, like 793 pounds. And I mean, on video, it looks like a little bit of a fight, but it felt like nothing. So after I hit that, I walked back because that was 360. Yeah, so I walked back in the warm up room with Isaac and Chris, and Chris is throwing in something random just because it's a bluff at whatever he's putting in. and they're arguing about how to beat Brandon and how to secure second. And they're facing me, and I'm facing them, and the TV's behind them. And guess who's going right now? Jared Martin is going. So I'm like, would you guys shut up for a second? And I'm looking at the thing. Jared breaks the floor with his second attempt deadlift, gets it to his knees, and just starts revving. And I was like, wait a second. And like I said, I'm a calm lifter, but that at that point, something switched me because I was like, load whatever the fuck we need to beat that guy. And I said it entirely too loud. Everyone heard me and everyone looked at me like I'm crazy. But I was like, oh, we got a chance. Because for a conventional puller, you don't usually miss a second attempt on, and he grinded for it. He put a lot of effort in. And that's usually you don't come back and get a third. So I was like, we got a real chance. So I kind of lost my mind a little bit and was like, load whatever we need to beat him right there. And that's what they did.
That's so crazy. Okay, we're gonna go into the last attempts in 1 sec. I just want to pause here for 1 sec. First off, I love that while these fellas, because honestly, in their defense, Jared ordinarily would hit that. But for you to be like, fellas, put a pause in this for a second. Let's just not take for granted he's going to hit this. And then you see this break and start pausing at the knees. You're like, wait a moment. And you're like, we're not fighting for a second, gentlemen. We're fighting for first. And yeah, him missing 370. So he's at, with his opener, 350.5. You have in
950.5, right?
Or 950.5. And you had already mentioned you had body weight advantage. And you knew coming into this, you had said top end range around 950. Now you still got work to do because this is like top end range for you. But you knew, okie dokie. Now this is ever so pivotal for you. And you're fighting for, now the adrenaline's going through you. You hit your second of 360. It was work. 370 is going to equal Jared Martin's 950.5. Tie goes to the lighter man. And you know you will come into first place with Jared going to pull after you.
Right.
Okay, just queuing this up for you.
Yeah, so I can take us from that point till until Brandon's bar hits the floor.
Okay.
So I hit my second. I see that Jared misses his second, and I get fired up. And this is not a stab at Jared, but me and Brandon are pretty close. And I told Brandon, I said, hey, it's me or you. It's not Jared. It's me or you. I was getting fired up because Jared was slipping. He was the heavy favorite. All respect to Jared. If he had a decent day, he's winning. But you don't get to just walk into nationals and get a gold because your qualifying total is higher than everybody else's. So I'm fired up. I finished my my second. Jared misses his second. Brandon crushes his third. I think he pulled 370 on his third. It was like air, man. So
on his second, you mean? Sorry.
Yeah, on his second. So we all finished our seconds. At that point, I had 372.5 bluffed. I'm not exactly sure why Chris chose that number. I think I could have hit it confidently, so it wasn't a bad bluff. But our goal was to make Jared go out before me. Because if he went out and hit it, obviously if he hits it, he gains like 17 kills on his total. That's game. I'm not going to go up 17 to beat Jared. So if he hits it, game over. But if we can make him go first, that helps us because if I hit my number, he can't go up 2.5 keys to beat me if that was the play, which I'm not exactly sure what happened with there, but I'll explain. I think they made a mistake. So we're going back and forth playing chess with third attempt deadlifts with our couple changes we're allowed to have. At the end of the day, I have to go first because my lot number was lower or whatever it was to make me go first. And we're doing the same exact lift at the moment. So it's do or die. It's time to pull for the win it's my first open nationals. I've never been to an open nationals. So obviously we're going for it all. I go out there and I tell myself, you pull conventional, you have raw strength. You don't need technique. So I abandoned my technique. I said, pull slack and then just don't stop pulling. And I was so confident that I had it. So that's really all I cared about. So I walked out there, lashed my belt. I said, let's do this. I was just talking to myself, just like, this is going to be so easy. Not easy, but there is a 0% chance you miss this. So I lock my hook grip in, pull slack, and just start revving. And it felt like a 10-second deadlift, but at no point was I like, oh no, I don't have this. The whole time I'm just like, I'm cooking this weight. So I get it up top. I lock my knees, I lock my shoulders, lock everything, and I'm standing as tall as I can. I get the down command, and I turn around to the big screen waiting for my 3 white lights to pop up, and I'm shouting out loud, "That's good. That's good. That is a
Gonna
good
will it.
deadlift." Oh, I was losing my mind. And then I got one white from the head judge, and the two sides red lighted me. And the amount of rage that just filled me so quickly for literally like 2 seconds. And then Chris, my handler, he went over to the jury to contest. And once I saw him do that, I was like, all right, Dev, that was clearly a good deadlift. It's going to be overturned. What felt like waiting for 10 minutes, it was probably like 30 seconds. But I'm hanging around the curtain, just kind of watching. And I'm assuming Big Body got the news that it was overturned. He showed no emotion. It was like just all right, cool.
It's all poker face, that
He like flashed me a thumbs up, and I was like, does that mean it's good? Like,
like why are you celebrating, bro? Yeah, like
yeah.
frick.
So I mean, he flashed me a thumbs up while I to the table, and then he walks over and he's like, hey, they're gonna overturn it. And I was like, all right, cool, yeah, awesome. So I start slamming my chest to the crowd, and I'm like, yeah, let's go. But I knew that was awesome. That was a sick moment. But I knew Jared and Brandon still have to deadlift. So at that point, I walk around to the crowd side because they won't let me like watch from the spectator or the lifter side. So I pretty much just walk out to the crowd and I'm like, all right, time to watch my championship get taken away or me securing it. And this is why I'm saying I think Jared made a mistake. He went up to 372 and a half. He was originally at 370. I'm not sure why he did that. If he would have just pulled 370, he would have smoked me by 15 or so kilos. So I'm not sure what happened there, if there was a miscommunication or they just couldn't get the change in time. And the only reason I bring that up is because I think Jared might have had 370. He got so close with 372. I mean, he had like a little hitch at the end, which sealed the deal for being a no lift. But man, he surprised me with how close he got to locking that out. But for some reason, him and his crew stayed at 372 and a half. It was just a little bit too heavy. I saw a pretty clear hitch at the top. So at that point, I was like, yep, that's a no lift. One down, one to go. So that leaves Brandon. Actually, there was Carrington. I can't think of his last name, but he's a phenomenal puller. I think he pulled the fourth heaviest deadlift in USAPL history between Brandon and Jared. So I had to watch one of the craziest deadlifts ever in between that. Go ahead and hop
Carrington actually, he was in one of the KOTL fantasy leagues one year and he won.
Oh, okay.
Over 500 people in it. But anyway, shout out to him. I think that was him.
Yeah, so he comes out. I think he pulled 385, which is just mind boggling. And I'm like, well, that was sick. Back to me being scared for my life. So Brandon loads up 393 to pull for the win. He would match my total at 950.5, but he would win on body weight. So he comes out there, and at this point, I have second secured, second. At worst, I'm getting second if Brandon pulls this. So I'm like, all right, because I'll be honest, I thought Brandon was going to pull this. I thought Brandon's top end was 395 to 400, but I really wasn't sure because he moves stuff so smooth, it's crazy. So I'm like, okay, at worst, I got second. My good buddy Brandon gets first. Not the end of the world. And I'm like, all right, let's watch it. That bar levitates off the ground. His off the ground movement is insane. So it teleports from the ground to his knees. And then I just see him like, it was like a weird hitch and he got stuck. And I was like, he can't shrug 860 pounds or whatever it was. He can't shrug that to finish it. So he got stuck there and he started leaning backwards. And I was like, no way. And he leaned back too far. He had to bail out of it and dropped everything. And I mean, he was looking up at the lights like he had a chance of getting it passed, but it was a pretty clear no lift. So at that point, I lost my mind. I looked into the crowd. I saw my wife and all my friends there. And I was just like, Because if I actually screamed, I'm him" a couple times. Because at Brandon's qualifying meet, he pulled for the win and screamed, "I'm him," and I was like, "That is so badass, man! I want to be like Brandon." So he
Yeah.
dropped that, and I was like, "Dude, I'm a national champion." So I went over to the crowd. My friends started screaming. I actually took my belt and threw it into the earth at Mach 5. I actually shattered my lever, so I have to buy a new belt now.
Really?
So that's something I got to figure
Hopefully
out.
you get a sponsor.
Yeah,
Dude, that's
hopefully.
crazy. Well, first off, Isaac and Big Body did a phenomenal job because them loading your bar, they did it perfectly
Mhm,
to beat Jared because he missed his second. And
mhm,
you got to play the odds. They're also playing the odds. They know for fact Jared had missed 370. They know this.
mhm. Right.
And they know what Jared's total is right now. The odds of coming back and hitting what he missed by strength are low. It can happen, but you usually, and Matt Gary would, I believe he would say, I'll ask him, but play the odds and load what you think you need for the win to force the other guy's hand. So them choosing what they chose for you, now you're ahead on body weight and you didn't have a kilo more than you needed, which is exactly what you got to do. And unfortunately, what Jared and them did not do is just load a little too much. And then exactly, you forced the hand. And I mean, well played all around by you, by your handlers. And obviously hats off to Michael Davis for, the I mean, everything played out, man. You had a good solid team around you and frig, man.
Yeah, yeah. Shout out to everyone that helped me out. But you brought up Mikey, and I didn't get to my phone for probably like 30 minutes after because all the drug testing and hugging and pictures and stuff like that. But I opened my phone up to Mikey's messages, and he was like, "I'm proud of you, like regardless of the outcome." And he sent that message when my third deadlift got red lighted. So he thought it was over. He thought I missed it and I was no
Mm.
good. So he was like, "Man, I'm proud of you, like regardless of the outcome." And then like two messages later, it's just all caps. "Let's go! So proud of you, man!" And I'm just like, "We did it, Mikey." It was like a movie ending. It was so awesome.
When he was watching the stream, as soon as he saw one, because anyone listening, you need one white light at least to protest. And when he saw that and he saw one white, he's like, protest, go, protest. And when he saw Chris go up, he's like, yes, yes, like fight this. And then, it is what it is. Thank God he did. Some
Mhm.
people, there are legitimately some nations at Worlds that don't like the protest. It's just not what they do. And
Yeah.
all right, if you don't want to protest another lifter's lift to turn a good lift to bad,
Mhm.
whatever. But to not do it for your own lifter, you got to have that conversation. You
A
got to
hundred
walk up there
percent.
and
I
protest.
couldn't agree with that more. Yeah. If you don't want to take a good lift and challenge it to make it bad, all right. I get that sort of like some sportsmanship. But if you have a bad lift that you want to try to make good, 100% go for it because the refs are human. They make mistakes.
Yeah.
I was super confused while I got two reds. I thought it was my shoulders weren't locked out, but I saw a replay and I was like as stiff and tall as I could be. They called me for up and down, which I have never been called for. But like I said, I kind of abandoned my technique and just brute strength it. So when I got the bar to my knees, I knew I was strong enough to just hip hinge it up. So I just shot my knees back and locked them real quick. When I did that, the bar went forward like an inch, but it didn't go down at all, but it did go forward. And from the side view that I saw, I could see how a ref would say, that bar dipped a little bit. So that's just to say you should 100% be allowed to contest the lift because referees can make mistakes and in real time they got to make a choice and I'm not mad at them for making that choice, but thank God for the jury overturning it.
Have the conversation. And with the amount of sessions I've seen, there are points when it gets kind of weird. When you have the bar, which is a line, the lifter who is behind the bar, when the lifter is shaking, like you said, a quick jerk movement, or if they're like revving the engine and their body's shaking, because you have a straight line with a background behind it that's moving, it becomes an optical illusion at times.
Mm-hmm.
It sometimes appears as though the bar itself is going up and down. That's not always the case because the body behind it is shaking up and down. And little legit, this is happening live action in 1 second. The people on the platform, the refs got 1 second. They're like, I think that was going up and down.
Right.
But the jury can review slow mo and be like, actually, no, he was going up and down. There was movement around on the platform. The bar itself paused with a background moving up and down, but no, the bar
Hmm.
was all good. So yeah, always have that conversation, man.
Yeah, that was my Jesus moment. Jesus at Sheffield was out
You're
there
right.
waiting for his 9 for 9 insane day, and I was like, now it's my turn. Hopefully, it's good. So
Dude,
it was cool.
remember I remember that Jesus moment in that crowd, and they were drinking, right? Like, I mean, they were drinking. And there's like 2,000 people. It was like a freaking rock concert. The booze that hit when Jesus didn't get, like, when he got two reds, one white, the
Mhm.
boos were insane. And then it was Flex Fam again. One of them ran over. I forget which one. I think it might have been Grant. But anyways, to the jury, and as the commentator, I'm like, everybody is looking at the jury right now, like, what are you going to do? And there was nothing wrong with the deadlift. It was the perfect, most beautiful performance. And obviously, he gets the white lights and 9 for 9, the greatest performance possibly we've ever seen. Um, so this is kind of a good segue. So now you're the champ, USAPL champ. Let's talk about some of the future, my friend. Talked about the aforementioned Tony Cliff winning worlds with 952.5. You're right up in the mix, my man. Tony Cliff is going to Sheffield. You have options now where it's like, there's more money meets coming on the PA side. You got the Pro Series, though. You had said your goal initially at the Arnold was like, if I could get a pro card, go to Nats. If I'm top 3, get a pro card, you had said was a goal of yours. You didn't know, though. Nah, top 3, you're going to be number 1. Not only are you going to be number 1, but as time passes and you take a look at your total and you take a peek around at your options, you are in contention of winning IPF Worlds and going to, you like money meets, the biggest of all money meets, Sheffield. And you've seen the road to Sheffield videos and all the hype behind it, whatever.
Oh
The
man.
options in front of you are probably a lot bigger than when you first started this journey. When you first at the Arnold being like, well, here's my goals for the next year. And I don't know how much time you've had to think about it. It's come quick for you, you had said.
Mhm.
There's a bit of time. What are you thinking, my friend?
The fact that you are bringing up Sheffield to me is absolutely insane.
It's got to be brought up though, because if I look at Tony Cliff won with 952.5. He's 40. He's been hanging on though. But he's a legend too. He's a legend. Dude, you were right there.
Yeah, so Tony actually reached out to me after that performance and congratulated me, which is really cool. I started following Tony at this most recent Worlds because trust me, I have been looking at the US 120s, and I don't think we sent one this year, if I'm not
Double check.
mistaken. I
Uh,
think
to, to I'll pull this up just to make
Enrique
sure. But
Lugo and Tristan. I can't think of Tristan's last name.
nasal rod.
Yes, and
Yeah,
then I
nasal
think
rod. That's right. Nasal rod went to NAPFs. You're right. Thank you. Yes, you
yeah,
are
and I
right.
think I think Mike. How you pronounce Mike's last name? To sure.
For sure. Yeah, Mike T.
I think he might have been involved in that battle as well.
That's right.
Anyway,
He
those
also
those
was
three
at
are great
NAPFs.
lifters. Yeah, those guys are all great lifters. But I don't think any of them went to Worlds. I'm not sure what the rule is on what total you need or what's that.
As a qualification to hit a certain number.
Is it the
So
Carpino?
yes,
Okay,
you would hit the Carpino, like obviously.
nine
You would
twenty
hit
two
the
point
Carpino.
five, right?
Yeah.
Oh, and that's just
Oh
off the top
man,
of your
you've
head.
done your
Trust me,
research.
I know. Yeah, yeah.
All
So
right.
I saw that no one hit that, and at that point, my best performance was the Arnold 902, but obviously I had a pretty rough performance there. So I thought, man, I maybe I could fit in there. Maybe we could use a 120. So trust me, I definitely thought about it. In terms of like a full decision, I don't think I have one yet. I'm leaning IPF. I will say that pretty confidently. Um, but I'll bring up something that I think is pretty obvious to everyone. There is a competitor, Bob Matthews, who may go 120 IPF. So if he does, I think my struggles of getting to Worlds and winning Worlds, the hardest part would be getting out of the US, winning
Mm.
nationals. He is obviously a phenomenal lifter. I won't speak for him in terms of if he's going, but I think he's pretty open that he's talked about it. It's a possibility. Um, so if he does go, it's going to be tough to beat him. Maybe it's worthwhile to stay in the USAPL for one more year. But if he does go, I totaled 950.5. He totaled 960. Obviously, he missed the last deadlift. You can talk about here and there. I can say his bench is an IPF approved. I can say this and that. I get people are probably going to come at me for saying I have a chance against Bob. And that's fair. I think it's kind of crazy I'm saying that I have a chance against Bob. But Jared Martin was the heavy favorite. He probably could have totaled 970, 980. Bob's going to be the heavy favorite. He can probably total close to 1,000. Go out and do it. Go 9 for 9. I can force him to go 9 for 9, and maybe we'll see what happens. But the full decision is not made, but definitely no. I've thought about it. I've seen Tony's 952 at one Worlds. I've seen Tristan's 907 that won Nationals. I know where I'm at, and it's cool to see where I've progressed, but the final decision has not been made yet.
Yeah, let me give a couple good points because you made some good points there. First off, in terms of Tony, not surprised he reached out to you. Class act. If you ever meet him, super nice guy too. Lives up. So and he's a legend in the game. Man. He's been competing since like the early 2000s, man. So he's 40 years old. He's been competing almost as long as you've been alive. It's crazy. So it's cool having him around. Because if you get a chance to compete against a multiple time world champion, by the time you guys meet, have been at Sheffield or whatnot. It's cool because you could, when you recall this later on, these are more legends of the game you'll have clashed with.
Definitely.
He's been on the podcast, super nice guy. But to your point, when you say people come at me if I say like I think there's a possibility I could beat Bob, dude, you've earned that right. Like Bob is phenomenally talented. What you have already proven on any given day. That's the beautiful thing about sports. And this has come so quickly for you from 902.5, even though you've always had the potential. 950.5 now. Like, even though you've always in the back of your mind, like, yeah, but I can do this. I just haven't had a series of events against me. But it's happened now. It's happened so quickly. Don't talk yourself out of it. Let him take it from you. If he's going to take it from you and earn a spot, that's fine. But don't talk yourself out of it. Let them take it from you. That would be my advice. Because if later on in life you look back, if you prefer the USAPL route, that's fine. You've already become the pinnacle of the USAPL route, though. You're the national champ. But if you prefer to stick in this lane, cool. There's nothing wrong with that. But all I would tell you is if you're doing it because you're telling yourself, maybe I'm not good enough to rock and roll with this guy, I'm telling you, at some point you'll look back in your life and be like, you know what? I should have made him answer that question as opposed to just letting him skate by. And who knows where your total ends up? Who knows where your total ends up by then? Yourself. 950 or more. You and Michael Davis have already covered a lot of ground. I don't know. And then at the very least, if Bob Matthews comes over, has a crazy day, because he's a phenomenal talent, and he goes fourth, you would be like, I'm at peace with my decision. I forced the question and now I know. Good. I don't got to look back. I've already won a USAPL title. Whatever. That's all I'm saying. But like, I'm a hopeless romantic, my brother. You can tell by the way I talk.
I don't disagree with anything you said. Obviously, I forgot to mention that Bob has some substantial weight to gain to get into this class, so that can help him, obviously. Sure. But yeah, I mean, it's either let Bob go by himself and he can probably go hit his second attempts and go, or I can go and push him and see if I can make him slip. And this is no beef between me and Bob. Bob is actually super nice to me. We've talked here and there. He's a cool guy. But there is the risk of me going to IPF and losing the pro card that I just got. I believe you have to forfeit your pro card if you decide to go. And then if I do go and I don't win the spot, obviously, there's not too much going on right now in terms of IPF in the United States that I could do alternatively.
There's more coming.
I've
Let
heard
me
that, and
say,
I'm glad to
yeah,
hear that.
I'll tell you, I can't say everything, but there is more coming. First off, the North American Championships is returning and it's coming to US, and they field a team as well. That's where the 120s that didn't get to Worlds battled it
Mhm.
out. But there's international teams to make, but there's money meets, there's things coming. You hang tight. Because the Fed is like early days,
Mhm.
but there's a lot of backing with this federation, you already know, and probably hear rumors and whatnot. A lot of rumors are true, man. You are not going to be the only world class athlete, and I mean world class athlete, that if you don't make the team, you're still world class.
Mhm.
Everybody involved in this knows and is looking for options and knows you can't let these people stick idle. Things are coming, and this is not anything that hasn't already been wheels in motion well ahead, whatever. So in terms of that, let things unfold. You'll see it's all good. And yeah. So anyways,
Yeah,
but yes,
that's good to
but
hear. Yeah,
hey, yeah, yeah.
it's funny you bring that up. That I won't be the only world class guy who doesn't go, because it's still weird to just even say world class. But
I know, dude.
uh,
Well, get used to it. Get
I mean,
used to it.
I follow a lot of IPF lifters and a lot of the US IPF lifters. The 93s, it's gonna be whoever goes. I'm gonna feel bad for who doesn't, because I mean, to me, those guys are the legends who aren't gonna be able to go. So it's good to hear that there's more coming.
Dude, can you freaking even imagine if like Kaiko doesn't make the team? Multiple time world champion, legend in the game. Can you imagine Kaiko doesn't make a national team? You'd be like, what is life? What
Illegal.
is going on right now? It'd be unbelievable. It could, who knows? Or like Gavin, or like imagine Petrie. Everything as good as Petrie is. Imagine Petrie comes over, doesn't make a team. It's and as good as all these 93s are, world class athletes aren't going to make the team. That's just how good they are. There will be other options for them again, but still, and again, too, any given year, you don't win one year, you win the next. Like you just keep showing up, and eventually you can win. That's another thing
Right.
I would tell people too is you don't always win the first shot out, but you keep showing up, and you never know when you're going to win and get going and make
Right.
your way to the world championship. So there's also that.
Yeah. And I'll say, um, the this is so ridiculous to say. If I were to somehow get to Sheffield, the 120 world record right now, I think is like 968 or somewhere in the low 970s. So I think if there's a strong 120 that goes, they might be kind of favored to break that world record if that's the same criteria. So that's
It'll
pretty
always be
cool.
that criteria.
Okay.
That's going to be the same. Yeah.
I think right now, I think it's Dennis Cornelius's world record total.
Nice.
And obviously it's been a while since he set that. So it's been a lot of new lifters who are progressing. So it would be pretty cool to take a shot at that. Um, but switching sides to the USAPL, like you said, I just won my first nationals. There's nothing left to do for this year. I got my pro card. I'm technically in the pro series. I think I got like 17th highest out of every pro or something like that. I got 3 points. I got 3 points for what I did. I'm not exactly sure how points work, but first place gets 50. I got three. Realistically, I'm not sure if I'll be
You're
competitive in
not
that
quitting your
pro
job. You
series.
told your wife, you as soon as you got your card, like, honey, I'm quitting my day job. I'm no longer an engineer.
Yeah.
She's like, well, let's see. She's not that supportive. She's
Yeah. And
supportive, but nobody's that crazy.
right. It's all based on dots. I think dots is a pretty decent formula right now. But
Dog, let's talk about this though. Let's talk about this though. I don't know if you heard the news. USAPL is going to create their own formula.
I did hear about that. I'm not sure that is a problem that we need to solve, but I'm not too in depth on that.
Okay, you go. What are your thoughts? And then I'll give you my thoughts.
I'll say I think dots is probably the most fair in terms of like Wilks. I'm not really familiar with like IPF good lift points or whatever the current formula is there. But I thought dots was pretty fair. We have a 75 kg lifter Perkins doing six something ridiculous 614. We have Rondell. He's almost a heavyweight lifter doing 600. I think if we can see people from both spectrums hitting almost the top end, I think it's a pretty balanced formula. But obviously, I'm pretty low on the Pro Series scale with dots, so unless the new formula like bumped me up pretty good, I'm not sure the Pro Series is going to be too beneficial for me.
Here's the thing with okay. First off, formulas, they're all there's going to be bias regardless how you do it. You
Right.
try to make it as fair as possible. But again, to your point, what problem are you trying to fix right now? As a matter of fact, I could see another problem. And this is where USAPL is running into some issues. I don't know if they're aware. So the viewership of the USAPL Raw Nats is like 1/5 of the IPF World Championships. And the reason why, whenever you have people on, whenever I talk to even like lifters who are like crazy into powerlifting, I ask routinely, like, who do you watch when you watch powerlifting? And almost always, at least, they'll say, I watch my weight class. I view my weight class. Sometimes they watch a weight class up, sometimes they watch a weight class below. Their weight class is number one, though.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are hardcores, but the amount of hardcores that watch every single weight class is like nerds like me. Okay. The USAPL, when they decided we are changing our weight classes so they're not the same to the rest of the world, you lost the rest of the world. Okay. It became an issue because now you ask people around the world, like Leo Bab was on here, and like, I don't, here's another issue. So you're no longer sending people to the IPF worlds. So everyone else in the rest of the world is like, okay, we're never going to cross pass anymore. We're no longer competitors. You're in your own field. Then you change weight classes. So you have 56s instead of 57s in terms of the women's. You have 125s instead of 120s. And
Mm-hmm.
people are like, okay, we're not in the same weight class anymore. So you're further and further segregating yourself from an already niche community. And another thing that people might be able to compare themselves with you with to at least keep that viewership. So it's kind of the same is your formula. Dots, not with the IPF mistake, but at least a lot of other powerlifting feds, even other national feds in the IPF will use dots. Them saying we're going to scrap that as well and actually do our own formula that we only do when not a single other nation in the world uses it. As a matter of fact, there's other nation feds within our own nation that don't use it. Nobody uses this. The comparison now, when they have the money meets and people are winning, like to your point, where like you could change the formula and change the rankings. If they have their own formula that nobody else uses in the world, when they do, the rest of the world is going to watch these money meets and the viewership will be so low because like I have no freaking idea comparison wise if that's good or bad, and I don't
Mm-hmm.
care. I'm not going to use this formula. No one in the world uses. They're like making themselves on an island smaller and smaller and smaller with every move they do with this, and I'm like, my God, what are you guys doing? This is a bad idea. I think it's a bad idea.
Yeah, now that you point that out, that's actually a really good point. I'm not sure what the motive was behind that, but I'm not sure what the positives are in that situation.
It's it's tough, man. When you lose, if you were like, if you did certain things where if you're going to be cut off from the rest of the world, at the very least, keep their eyes so the views are really high. Keep their
Mm-hmm.
eyes on your streams, sponsorships, everything. The big name lifters will be want to be there. But every move you make with everything I just listed for all the reasons is hurting that. And then the big lifters are like, man, you're going to be a Russell Orhe who's like, I chose USAPL because I could wear my brand on your platform, but your platform now is being viewed by so much fewer. I might as well wear someone else's brand on the one day and my brand on every other day in my own videos. And everyone will watch me compete when I compete. Like
Right.
Sheffield numbers was like 10 times. Worlds is 5 times. Like it's like Russ is like, I'm shooting myself by staying here. I'm losing credibility within the community, like relevancy within the community. So yeah, it's tough. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I will say I think I'm a big fan of the USAPL. I think they've done a lot of good things, but I think they really screwed up with the way they gave money out for nationals. They did top three male and female each day by dots, which all right, it's not the worst thing looking at it, but they moved the 110s to Sunday from Saturday, which makes Sunday just insanely competitive. So even
Mhm.
someone like me, I just accomplished something that 0.01% of lifters will do. I just won a national championship. I think I was like fifth overall in terms of money. And I got fifth overall in terms of performers on Sunday, and I got nothing. I got a gold medal, which I don't want to sound ungrateful. It's sick, but I think it was 5 grand for first, 2,500 for second, 1,000 for third. So that's over $8,000 you're giving away. You break that up into, I don't know, $750 for first place in each weight class, and then trickle down the other placements. There's just so many more people who really care about placing on podium rather than just looking at Rondell or Perk, who's smoking everyone on dots. And I get those guys deserve great stuff. They're the best lifters of the entire meet. But there's just so much opportunity to include so many more people. The money we're giving away isn't life changing in the first place. So why not spread the love a little bit? That's just my perspective.
Another thing too is, and Russ actually mentioned this on Threads, is and I don't know, you fuck with Threads, by the way?
I'm too old, man. I'm a boomer. No, I'm kidding. But I've
I'm
never got on Threads.
on Threads, but I'm like hit and miss on it. But I got to do, I mean, just to get the information out. But anyways,
Right.
on Threads, Russ made a good point. He's like, formulas changed just in the past 5 years. We had Wilkes, then we had a different IPF one, and this was when USAPL was with the IPF, so everyone's using it. Then we had Good Lift Dots, and now if you're USAPL, you're gonna have another one altogether. That's all like
Right.
in the past 5 years, all those different formulas. And if you went back on all of these different competitions and changed the formulas, I could change the results of who was champion, who was not. Same kilos lifted,
Mhm.
but I'll just change who won by changing the formulas. History can be rewritten. So 10 years in the future, someone will look back and be like, why did this guy win? He got smoked. Oh, they were using a formula at the time that, well, like how many different formulas has there been? Has there been like 10? And you could go back and be like, well, I could just change around all these different results throughout history and they all change and in the current time in the which would be in the future everything would be different. Like I when I look up this meet, I don't understand why this guy won. You can literally lift more, lose to someone in your weight class who just weighed in a little lighter, but you were the stronger lifter. It doesn't. That's why Russ had said on Threads, and I agree. Chase titles, chase moments, chase events, chase a legacy like that, and then in the future. When your future kids, grandkids, or whoever the heck ask you about it, were you good, dad? National champion, world champion, say less. There's not
Yeah,
much more to say.
that's a
Like
great
they're,
point.
I got you. Or you could even like, even if they're not even into powerlifting, they know what national world, they know what these mean. Whereas like, some things are just they age no matter what, they always age well.
Yeah, that's a good point you bring up, and I think having a formula to compare across weight classes is beneficial and it's cool. But I think we're focusing on it way more than who's winning the weight classes themselves. It's like there's been 100 Instagram questions and answers. Who was better, Jesus at Sheffield or Perk at Nationals?
Right.
They both had insane meets. Why are we caring about who was better by some formula that, like you said, will change over time? Like maybe Jesus was better on good lift points and Perk was better on dots, or who cares? Why are we comparing? We're doing MJ and LeBron. They're both fantastic. Let's just enjoy it and let's just crown Jesus as the king of the super heavyweights, and we'll crown Perk as the king of the 74s or 75s. I think that's the better way of
Yeah.
looking at it.
Like in terms of a sports debate, in terms like who's better, for fun, it's like barbershop talk when they talk about
Mm.
boxing, whatever. I'm a big boxing guy, but I get it. Who's pound for pound the best? That happens. But to your point, all said and done, you want to chase your titles. Don't, like these debates are for the hardcore nerds of the sport. But outside that, and there's not that many of us, it feels like there are because we're the most vocal, whatever the heck, right? You're following these platforms, you're knee deep into powerlifting. But on the peripheral, which is like 90% of the powerlifting population, which is where everyone else lays. They don't know what Perks dots was. You named a bunch of the dots scores. Hats off to you, my friend. people in Europe don't even follow dots that much because they're IPF. Like even within our own community, we don't even know dots. We don't even know, like you don't even know IPF points because you're not an IPF but guy, possibly yet. But but in Europe, that's what they know. So it's like even within our own community, we don't even know. So to your point, titles is far more solid, far or
Mm.
placings within your weight class, far more solid. Start there, and then everything else after that is window dressing, super nerd, deep into your powerlifting community, banter, which is fun, fine, nothing wrong with it. But making full on decisions based on it is it's tough. It's yeah.
Yeah, I've never seen like Russ in his bio on Instagram probably has like 5-time Natty champ in his bio, and I'm sure Perk has however many times he's won. I don't think I've ever seen anyone say 1-time best lifter by dots in their bio or something. No one cares. I mean, it's a cool accomplishment, but we're comparing stuff that we don't need to be.
God, can you imagine in 3 years someone has USAPL Formula number one, and the rest of the world is like, I don't even know what that means. I don't even know what
Yeah.
that means, brother. But
Yeah.
I hope it's good. I hope it's good. But anyways, yeah, no, all valid points. Do you want to play a little something I call the name game? I say a name and you say either one word, two words, a story. There's no right and wrong answer.
Yeah,
Whatever
let's do it.
comes fresh to mind. Most of these are going to be surprise 120s, but let me pull this up. Okay, my friend, the name game. So again, no right and wrong answers. Tony Cliff.
I'd say the target, respectfully.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, yeah, we'll put a pin in that. That kind of means you might be going IPF, but kind of we'll see. It's a moving target. All right. Dennis Cornelius.
Oh man, the goat. I mean, I never met him. I'll never the record book. It was him. It was Dennis Cornelius. I still see him on Instagram lifting in his garage barefoot, just moving around
Dude,
800 pounds.
it's
What a
so
guy.
legendary. That barefoot squat in his garage is legendary. I wonder if he'd ever consider coming back. I actually seen him post semi recently, and he was shifting. I mean, he's always gonna. This guy is gonna be 55 years old, and heads up, he'll you know squat a Buick. But he was barefoot in his garage again with that. He's got that toolbox and the whole nine. I could describe his garage, right? But anyways, next up, Rondell Hunt.
Goodness gracious. I mean, the deadlift lord. And that's not even just to point out his deadlift. He's like I even said, and I've had help people reach out and try to like comfort me. But I said my 125 championship has an asterisk. And the asterisk is because Rondell couldn't technically compete because I think it's the citizenship thing or whatnot.
Well, he's not. I don't think it's an asterisk to defend you against you, but but he's not American, right? He's Trinidad and Tobago. He's lifting as a guest lifter.
I think
Is
that's
he
what it
American? Does
was.
he have American citizenship? I don't think he
I
does.
would imagine not if he couldn't do that.
Yeah. So then there's no
But
asterisks, my friend. You were the national champion.
I mean,
It,
I again, I am maybe I'm just being humble or whatever you want to call it, but I
yeah.
uh I mean, if he was there, obviously he's nuts, and I mean, he's one of the best in the world, and he's the next guy I'm going towards. It's so insane to say that. Like throughout my whole career, I'm like, okay, here's the next guy I got to grab. Here's the next guy to get to. Here's the next guy. I have to go to a guy who's totaling 1,050 kilograms natural. This, like, come on, give me a break.
He's
But yeah, I
special,
mean,
man.
he's nuts. But if he can do it, I guess that's my next goal.
It's funny because I would love to double back on this podcast in a few years and you listen to it, have you back on, and because this is all just kind of sinking in right now. It's so fresh, but it's so like not totally dawned on you. Like, dude, you're right up in this mix, and we're having conversations about it. It's like, oh my
Uh,
god.
it
But
doesn't feel real, man. It feels like I'm in 10th place. I just happened to have the right opportunity and I made it. But now it's time for me to go back to 10th place and start clawing back up again.
it's a good look at an underdog mentality is a good one. It keeps you hungry, and It gives you something to prove. And these bigger names who have been around longer, like legends, like Jared Martin, Rondell Hunt, Tony Cliff, they've been around forever. Let them carry the pressure as well. Tony Cliff is going to be in Sheffield. The amount of eyeballs I watch Sheffield, if you guys clash at Worlds, you let the big names carry the hype and whatnot. Although, I mean, frick, if you cross over, make a U.S. national team, there's no such thing as being on the national team and not having hype when you got USA across the chest. The expectations are big. And it means you will have beaten Bob Matthews, which means everyone will know who the hell
that's,
you are.
that's crazy to say, man. That's
but
crazy.
okay, let's do the next name is actually Jared Martin.
Um, Man, that's a good name to think of a word for. Um, I guess motivation. I don't really know him personally, but if you're stronger than me, you're my next target. But he's been slayed, if you will. I got Jared. Now it's on to Tony. Rondell's up there. Bob's up there. I got the list of people that I need to get stronger than is narrowing down, which is cool. But I still got a lot of work to go.
How about Bam Bam?
Oh man, that's my guy. I'd say friendly rivalry. We met in 2021, maybe junior nationals in New Orleans. And I don't know how we connected on Instagram, but we had been talking for like a year prior. And since then, man, it's just been like just two buddies having fun. And we've only connected a couple times now since then. But I mean, I talked to his coach at nationals, and me and Brandon talked a bunch. Like he's the man. If it wasn't for Brandon, I probably wouldn't have won nationals.
Really?
I took my prep so seriously because of Brandon. Like we had our friendly banter and we joked and said, I'm gonna beat you, you're gonna beat me. He called me bald, made fun of my bald head. I
Hey,
probably made
dog.
fun of something on him.
I got your back on that one. Come on, man.
No, I love the bald look. But I mean, yeah, we had our banter, but like at no point was I like, I'm not going to beat you. And at no point was he like, he's not going to beat me. So, I mean, he fired me up. It was awesome. And I hope I did the same for him. But yeah, he's the man.
And what gym are you at again? Is this
So,
Steve's?
yeah, so Steve, I actually got the patch on right now. I work at Indy City Barbell in Indianapolis.
Okay. I would like a couple updates if you don't mind. I've
Sure.
had Steve on the podcast. Phenomenal podcast. If you ever double back for anyone listening to listen to Steve, Steve's a great guy, and but he's gone through some health issues. He's
Mhm.
like wide open with this. I'm not giving anything that's like
Right,
in
right.
DMs
Yeah.
only. Very transparent. How is he doing?
I think he recently found a kidney, which is like huge, huge.
Thank
Congrats to
God.
him.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the timeline is now on getting that surgery scheduled, but I think he's at a pretty good point where he's going to start getting healthier, which is awesome. Because, like you said, he's a great guy. I've been at Indy City for, I think, roughly 3 years now. I mean, he's always just been super friendly, super nice guy, runs a fantastic gym. Indy City Barbell community, unmatched. I drive
Mm.
35, 40 minutes there every day or every training day just because it's worth it. The equipment is sick. The people there are awesome. I should give a special shout out to Ben Poor. I mentioned earlier he competed in prime time. And then Tyler Petro. Those are my two main guys that I work out with. We will adjust our schedules and make sure we line up, but it's awesome to have people like that to train with, and that's the reason this prep went so well, and that's the reason the outcome was the way it was.
Yes, Steve. He's been on the podcast. He has like a phenomenal backstory if anyone listens to it, and went through some health issues, and it looked scary, going through dialysis, etc. But I am glad to hear that he has a kidney transplant lined up, and things are looking promising, and good. Another person that I was going to ask, I'm not sure because I'm a stitch out of the loop on this one. Is Garrett still there, Garrett Fear, or is he not in the area anymore?
So he was there for like 6 months ish when I was there, and I know he was a big part of ICB and helping getting it to where it was. I think he
Right,
moved out to Illinois at some point and did his own thing for
gotcha.
a little bit, and now I know he's heavy into the WRPF and getting that federation up and running. I mean, it's already been a good federation, but he's trying to really restructure it to get it to be something pretty good.
Ah, gotcha. So he's not still there because I
Not
remember
still
he
there
was
now.
at one point. Okay, So no Gary Fear update then.
Yeah,
That
not much
was
other
my
than that.
next question.
I think he moved on to some bigger, better things for him. So good for him.
Gotcha. All right, good for him. Okay, and the next one is actually it's not a name, but it's a word. So get your feelings on this. When you hear this word, what are your feelings? IPF Worlds.
Ooh, a dream, a dream. I mean, like I said, I'm a numbers guy. Statistically, the amount of let's narrow it down to powerlifters. Obviously, it's a niche sport. The amount of powerlifters who even have the chance to be competitive to go to IPF Worlds is so insanely small. And I feel like I started out like every other person, pretty normal total, pretty normal lifts. I've put in work, specifically powerlifting for 4 years, and now I get the opportunity to think about going to Worlds. It doesn't feel like I've done enough to be in that position. So I don't know. It still feels like a dream to even think about that.
I remember seeing this quote. Um, Somebody was like, you feel bad for that guy. He's chasing that dream, such a big dream, and he may never get that dream. He's just, chasing something. What if he never gets it? And the person listening to him goes, but can you imagine not having a dream to chase? You need something to get out of bed, something to chase, something. Don't feel bad for that guy who has that thing, who's improving and working towards it. And it may not be in a year, maybe a 3-year journey or whatever. When the door of opportunity swings open, you're like, holy shit, here we go. But having a dream, man, it's better. It's better than not, having something to be working towards and to actually be within the grasp and be like, no, this isn't crazy. This isn't
Yeah.
crazy for me to say. It means something, man.
Yeah.
It's special, even if,
It's gonna take time to set in that I need to put myself in this conversation with these high level lifters. But give me 50 more kilos on my total. Maybe I'll start feeling like I belong. But until then, it's the underdog mentality. Getting to Worlds is a dream. Winning Worlds, going to Sheffield, it just doesn't seem like it's something that is on the table for me. But I would keep doing what I'm doing, getting as strong as I can, staying healthy, and if the door of opportunity opens, hopefully I can capitalize like I did at Nationals.
you're a young man. Yeah, it ain't like you don't got to throw all your chips in one year on the table. Like you're going to be around for a long time. Keep banging on that door, knocking on that door. Here's another one. Sheffield.
If the IPF Worlds is a dream, I don't know what Sheffield is, a fantasy.
Heaven.
Heaven,
It would be
yeah. Man, yeah, like this is kind of how I think about it. If I went to Worlds and I didn't perform well or like lost, not got first would be considered losing for me.
okay, fair.
I would be pretty upset. I feel like I had an opportunity in front of me and I didn't capitalize on it. If I somehow got to Sheffield, I could pretty much bomb out. I don't care at that point. That is
Yeah.
so insane to get to. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, man. Yeah, 100%. I mean, Sheffield's absolutely, it's crazy the levels to this. No matter what, whatever route you choose, like I wish you luck, dude. This is a good conversation, by the way. We freaking we're closing in on 2 hours, dog, and that was easy peasy lemon squeezy. You got to do more podcasts, by the way, because you're a good talker. But I'm glad you came on. But no matter what pathway you choose, if you go USAPL, do your thing. But if you come IPF route, um, I'll be seeing you, dog. We'll grab beer and pizzas just like you did last time, and say hello and freaking yeah, man. The future's bright. Keep in touch, man. Keep
Yeah,
in
for
touch,
sure.
however this thing goes.
Yeah, I
And
appreciate you having me on. I know the decision wasn't quite as solidified as you had hoped or others may have hoped. But I think in the coming weeks, I'll understand it more. But I think it's safe to say that if not this year, the IPF is in my future down the line. So hopefully we'll see it there. But I appreciate you having me on. Um, maybe another episode in the future. But I appreciate
100%.
it.
100%, my friend. And if anyone wants to get a like follow you or whatnot, you want to give a shout out for your Instagram and
Yeah, sure. I'm big underscore dev 98 on Instagram. I made it when I was like in middle school, just started lifting, and it's really caught on. People like people, all my friends call me Devin. They call me my full name. But Instagram friends, they say, "Hey, Big Dev," and it's just stuck. So Big Dev, Big underscore Dev 98. I'm sure you'll find it on Instagram. But sure, shoot me a follow along. I love watching other people progress as well. That's the greatest thing. It's not about how strong you are, but it's about your progression. So
Everybody's got a story, man.
right.
Well, thank you for coming on and sharing yours. And to anybody listening, as per usual, please do subscribe, give us high ratings. And until next time, six pack Lapadat, six up, and we are out.